Last episode, we talked about the hedonic treadmill, the reason the number in your account never quite feels like enough. Tonight is the final episode of the Psychology of Money series.
And we're ending on something deliberately practical, because after 5 episodes of understanding why your brain fights you financially, tonight is the one simple rule that finally gets it on your side.
Alex, what are people going to understand by the end of this?
By the end of tonight, you'll know exactly how impulse buying works at a chemical level, why it's becoming harder to resist in 2026 than it has ever been in history, and how a single 48-hour rule eliminates the majority of it without ever requiring willpower.
No willpower, just a pause. That's the whole premise.
And the reason it works is something most people don't realize. Impulse buying isn't primarily about wanting the thing, it's about wanting the feeling of buying the thing.
Okay, that hit differently than I expected.
Here's the mechanic. When you see something you want, a jacket, a gadget, a course, a flight deal, your brain releases a small burst of dopamine, not from having the item, from anticipating it.
The dopamine is in the scroll, in the add to cart, in the checkout screen.
Exactly. Researchers at Vanderbilt University found that the dopamine spike associated with purchase anticipation in e-commerce is actually larger than the satisfaction response from receiving the product. Your brain peaked before the package arrived.
Which is why the thing often feels slightly disappointing when it shows up. That's not you being ungrateful, that's the chemistry completing its cycle.
And now imagine an entire trillion-dollar industry built specifically to trigger that anticipation spike and to compress the time between spike and purchase to as close to zero as possible.
One-click buying, same-day delivery, limited time countdown timers.
Every one of those features exists for one reason: to get you from dopamine spike to credit card charge before your prefrontal cortex, the rational future-thinking part of your brain, has time to catch up and evaluate the decision.
So the entire e-commerce infrastructure is essentially a race between your emotional brain saying, buy it now, and your rational brain saying, wait a moment.
And they've spent billions of dollars and thousands of engineers making sure your emotional brain wins every time. The 48-hour rule is how you give your rational brain a fighting chance.
Because all you're doing is introducing a delay, a structural gap between the spike and the spend.
And what research consistently shows is that the desire doesn't survive the delay. In a 2023 study from the University of Michigan, shoppers who added items to a wish list instead of a cart and returned 48 hours later purchased only 12% of those items.
88% of the things that felt urgent, that felt essential, simply weren't wanted anymore 2 days later.
The dopamine had settled, the rational brain caught up, and most of the needs revealed themselves as moments.
So what is the so what before the story? The rule itself. Anything over a set threshold, $50, $100, whatever your number is, goes on a list, not a cart, a list. You come back in 48 hours. If you still want it and can afford it, buy it with full intention.
Simple. No willpower, just friction. Let's talk about how this principle has been proven to work at scale.
Yes, Act 3.
In the late 1990s, Sweden was facing a significant problem with consumer debt. The average household debt-to-income ratio had climbed to dangerous levels over the previous decade.
And this was before smartphones, before one-click checkout, before any of the current architecture existed.
In 1999, the Swedish Consumer Agency ran a national campaign called Sleep On It, encouraging consumers to apply a mandatory delay before any non-essential purchase over the equivalent of roughly $75 in today's terms.
Just a national recommendation, not a law, not a program, just a cultural prompt.
Within 3 years, Swedish consumer debt growth had slowed measurably. Subsequent surveys found that households who adopted the delay habit reported higher satisfaction with their purchases and lower financial stress than those who hadn't.
They reported higher satisfaction, meaning the things they bought after the delay they actually wanted and enjoyed.
Intentional buying produces more happiness than impulsive buying, even when the item is identical, because the act of choosing deliberately, of returning and saying, yes, I still want this, feels like agency, like self-respect.
Self-respect is not a phrase I expected in a finance podcast, but I think it's exactly right.
And by 2026, Sweden consistently ranks among the highest in the world for financial well-being relative to income. That's not one policy, it's a culture of deliberate spending that compounded over decades.
Okay, devil's advocate, because I have two objections and they're both realistic.
Let's hear them.
First one, what about genuine deals? If I wait 48 hours and the sale ends, haven't I just lost money by following the rule?
This is the fear that the urgency machine was specifically engineered to create. The research on this is pretty firm. Genuine scarcity is extremely rare. Limited time countdown timers reset. Sale prices return.
And even when the sale genuinely ends, the $70 item at full price is still $70. If you genuinely wanted it after 48 hours, you would pay that. If you wouldn't, then the sale price was never the point. The urgency spike was.
The discount was just the trigger, not the reason.
Second objection. I already feel like I'm incredibly strict with my spending. This seems like extra friction for someone who was already disciplined.
If you are genuinely not making unplanned purchases and your savings rate reflects that, you don't need this rule. It's aimed at the gap between intention and behavior. If your behavior already matches your intention, the rule is redundant.
But most people who believe they are disciplined spenders are surprised by their bank statements. The audit we described in episode 7 tends to reveal patterns that felt invisible.
The rule is for the gap. If there's no gap, there's no problem.
Okay, final action plan. And this is the last episode, so 3 actions that close the whole series.
If you're just starting out, pick a threshold today, a number above which you will always apply the 48-hour delay. Write it down right now. Even $25 is a perfectly valid start. The habit is more important than the number. If you already save and invest regularly but feel the pull of impulse spending, replace your digital cart with a wish list for 1 month. Track how many wish list items you still wanted after 2 days. That data will be more persuasive than any argument I can make.
And if you're already financially sorted, use the rule as a filter for the premium upgrades, the business class, the equipment, the renovation. A 48-hour delay on big decisions almost always produces better outcomes than immediate commitment.
This has been the Psychology of Money series. 6 episodes exploring why your brain makes money hard and what you can actually do to work with it instead of against it.
We started with how your brain is literally wired to choose now over later. We automated your savings so you stop relying on willpower. We found your invisible money leaks. We named the lifestyle creep trap. We calculated your actual exit number.
And tonight, the 48-hour rule, the simplest tool in the whole series, the one you can start using before the episode ends.
If this series helped you see money differently, share it with one person who needs it. And if you've been listening from the beginning, thank you. Genuinely. We'll see you in the next node.